Hey guys, it's Erica here with the Child Care Directorship Podcast. We are live in New Jersey at the AUIC state affiliate, and they are celebrating their 80th anniversary. So that is amazing. We are here with Tricia Dave. She is a dynamic early childhood educator. She is an entrepreneur and an advocate for those who work in centers to create nurturing, inclusive, high quality learning environments. Also, the owner and founder of Ellie's Academy and a network of early learner centers across New Jersey. So she is dedicated to her career, to shaping early years through research based practices and all the things, philanthropy, all of the things. So, welcome to our show.
Thank you.
So, you serve as the vice president of social media and membership.
I do.
You do? What's that like?
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of content creation. It's a lot of kind of putting the board out of their comfort zone because I like to make those fun TikToks and reels and things like that. But I love social media. I think we're in a time and age where, families look at childcare centers on social. They want to see what are the kids doing? What are the teachers doing?
Yes.
What are these centers living, breathing, and eating, right? So I kind of wanted to bring that same vibe to NJAYC when I joined as a board member. And then when a position opened up for co-VP of social media, I was like, that's my calling. I want to do it. And I work with Dina. And her and I are just a dynamic duo together. I love it.
Yeah. So far, I mean, with the conference is, midway point here. So far, what has been your biggest aha or really, most excited about?
I really think I was most excited about listening to Charles speak this morning, CEO of Lakeshore. Lakeshore is something that I absolutely love. I live 10 minutes away from the store in East Brunswick.
Me too.
I feel like every teacher should live within walking distance of a Lakeshore store. But just hearing his story, hearing how Charles started, his philanthropy and how he got into Lakeshore versus just reading it, I think in editorial articles, hearing it from him, it was just so impactful. And just hearing how he, as a teacher, wanted to make a difference for his fellow coworkers, and how he anonymously funded, his teachers' wish list. I think that's amazing, and I think that's something as educators, a lot of teachers do struggle with, is especially public school teachers. A lot of them, I have friends that are public school teachers and they have to fund a lot of their stuff for their classrooms on their own. So as an owner and director now, and having been on that flip side of being a teacher before stepping into a leadership role, I make it a point, my teachers need something, I give it to them, because if they don't have the right tools at their fingertips, they're not able to execute and thoroughly teach and enhance the lives of the children that they care for.
Yeah. So as a fellow child care owner, what's your best advice to maybe center directors that maybe are just starting out?
I think the biggest advice I can give them is spend time with your teachers. It's one thing to be a leader, but I think the biggest quality of being a leader and being a director or even an owner is showing up for your staff. And that's something I'm going to talk about in my presentation later this afternoon, is how to mold your leaders from within, right? I have always told my teachers, why hire from outside if I can promote from within? And you're only going to know the skill sets that your teachers bring to the table outside of being a teacher or an educator if you're spending time with them. And that's not just having a quarterly one-on-one or anything like that. I take my teacher and I'm like, let's go for lunch. Let's go grab a coffee. Let's hang out on the weekend because I want to know them.
My director.
Yes.
Right there.
I say we are a dysfunctional family that functions. And especially my first school, I've been with them for 7 years. I could not have had center 2 and 3 if it wasn't for the support of center 1.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have center 3 if 1 and 2 didn't support me. So it's not a me effort. It is a team effort.
Yeah.
And I am thankful for my teachers every day. And that's the one thing that I would tell anybody who's looking to open up a childcare center is you can bang a tour out of the ballpark. And that's what I tell my staff.
Yeah.
They don't stay for me. They don't stay for this pretty face or my personality. Nothing. They stay for the people that are the blood and sweat in the classrooms.
Yeah.
And if you value your teachers, you're going to be successful no matter what you do.
Yeah. And I think a lot of what you said too, like growing your teachers from within. I mean, there was I want to say it was Ruth. We talked about that when she was on the podcast this morning. So many centers are really afraid to do that because they're afraid that the teacher's going to get a better position somewhere else, or you're going to have to figure out how to pay them more money. But again, you've got to grow them to have a good program.
I have my assistant director in one of my schools right now. When I acquired that location, she was a part-time floater that came in. She is now my assistant director after 6.5 years.
Yeah.
She still works full-time and she goes to school full-time to
Yeah.
get her bachelor's degree. And I told her, if you want to grow into a leader, you need that bachelor's degree. And I've helped her every step of the way. My other director, who's co-presenting with me today, she was a lead kindergarten teacher for 25 years. I said, you know what? I don't know this center. You are the face of this building. When I
Yeah.
acquired it, I said, you need to be the director. She's like, me? I said, you have every quality. I said,
Yeah.
nobody's just tapped into it. And
Yeah.
and you know what? If they end up leaving after a couple of years, I'm going to be happy because you know
Mhm.
what? I gave them that foundation to
Mhm.
grow, but I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure I retain them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the other thing too is if you're continually growing leaders in your program and one leaves, your program isn't going to fall apart because you built other ones up along the way as well.
Exactly. You're
So
creating a pipeline. And again,
yes,
that's what I'm going to talk about today
I didn't
with
know
my
that.
group.
Look at
Yeah.
that.
It's going to be a pipeline. You know, you're taking your assistants to leads, your
Yeah.
leads to maybe curriculum coordinators, your curriculum coordinators to managers. And then eventually, you know, I joke with some of my staff. I said, why can't you in a couple of years take over the Ellie's Academy? So I'm not going to be doing this forever. Eventually someone's going to have to take over.
That part. That part. Um, yeah. So in your bio, it talked a little bit about high school. Do you use high school?
So we use high scope. Yeah, we use blanked out for a second.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, we use the high school curriculum.
What inspired you to use that curriculum?
So honestly, when we were going through the process for rating with the state, I just really sitting down with my technical analyst specialist and just
Yep.
figuring it out, you know, what really aligns with the New Jersey standards, what really is going to help these kids set them up for success, you know, because for the first 5 years are so fundamental when they're in early childhood and in a strong program. And we want to give them the foundation and the tools so that when they graduate out either at pre-K or kindergarten, they're going into a public school system successful and ready to succeed. And I'm going to be really honest, Erica, my kids have been graduating out at either a first or a second grade reading or
Mhm.
math level. And that's no, I take no credit for that. That's the teachers, that's the curriculum, and that's the execution of what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, public school in New Jersey is 180 days. Childcare, we close maybe 10, 12 days out of the year. And if there's no weather, like, you know, it's only
Yeah.
those major holidays. So once they hit that 180 day in pre-K or kindergarten with us,
Mhm.
we start introducing them the next grade level material. And then they're going into public school already having that
Yeah.
baseline. I've had kids come in during summer camp and they were like, oh, Miss Tricia, we were so bored
Uh-huh.
for the first 2 months. They're like, we know this already.
Yes.
I was like, that's kudos to your teacher and the
Yes.
programming.
Yes. Yes. Great.
Yeah.
Great work. So both as an entrepreneur and early childhood leader, how would you describe your leadership style?
I think servant leadership. You know, I mimic what it is that I want my staff to do. So if I'm going to have an expectation that everybody has to be able to change diapers, there's no way I'm going to sit in a classroom and just be like, supervise, you go do what you need to do. If I need to get into the grunt and the mud of it, I'm going to,
Mhm.
because you have to lead by example.
What key principles or practices guide how you lead your team and shape your vision for your program?
I think having mental days really, you know, I think sometimes we just get so wrapped up in the motions of what it is that we're doing
Mhm.
that we lose focus. So I think sometimes I just have to take a day or sometimes 2 days to myself and I need to reflect on what's been going on and have I gone off course? What do I need to do to stay on track and things like that? And I think sometimes just keeping ourselves grounded. Because, you know, as owners and operators, I mean, you know, like we wear marketing, we wear human resources, we are finances, we are everything, you know? So I think sometimes we just get so overwhelmed with all of that that, you know, it takes a toll on us. And
Yeah.
listen, I'm not going to lie, post COVID, I think all of that just like piled on. And I was just like, I'm going to have like a mental breakdown. And you just need time because if you're not recharged and refreshed, you can't expect your team. And I want them to do the same. Like a couple of years ago, we started rolling out, you know, we give them paid time off, sick time, things like that. And we're like, you know what? You shouldn't have to ask off for your birthday. It's already a paid day off for them. And we tell them you can use it on your birthday. You can tie it in when you're taking other PTO, or at the end of the year, you want to cash in on that for your final check, you can. But you shouldn't have to ask to get your birthday off. It is as important as taking off for Thanksgiving, Christmas, 4th of July, whatever it
Yeah.
is, you know? So, I think doing little things for our staff like that has really helped to make a difference.
Yeah. I want to go back to something you said about like, pouring into yourself. So you probably don't know, but this podcast was born as part of my therapy because 2 years ago, I was like on my playground, thought I was going to die. And so this became part of my therapy. I think it's so important that we're reflective and that, you pour so much into our staff and our kids and our programs, but at the detriment of our own health if we don't pay attention to it. So I think it's really important that you brought that up. So let's get back to AUIC and advocacy. Tell me a little bit about the roles that you've played in terms of advocacy here in your state.
So I think right now the biggest thing that NJYC is really trying to strive for, and we talked about it this morning, is the Start Strong program. It's something new that, coalition that's been rolled out, and it's really advocating for, first of all, our funding in childcare. I'm sure you heard, but the state subsidized program has really affected a lot of families. I personally, 2 out of 3 of my centers, we have a lot of subsidized families, and I have families that are already on the program who have had another child, and they're not able to add their child onto the program. And now they're having to struggle to pay out of pocket
Is
where
that
they're
only happening here?
in New Jersey right now. Yeah.
Wow.
So, we're really trying to push for that. And we've had conversations with both candidates that are running for governor
Yep.
and really hoping that, they make that a mission when they come into office after the election, whether it's Jack or Mikey. We really just want to make sure that
Yep.
childcare is a huge focus. And also equitable pay. It's not a glamorous 6-figure salary.
Yeah.
But we do what we do because we absolutely love it. Our teachers are the breadth of the infrastructure of this country, and
Yeah.
childcare is so critical. So without well-paid teachers and affordable childcare, it can completely crumble.
Yeah. Do you have state funded pre-K here in the state?
So we do, yes.
And so are most programs collaborating with the state funded pre-K?
So
Or
there are some childcare programs where like that overflow is in there after the lottery system. If there's still children, then they have like certain centers that they've partnered up with. But some centers are still struggling with that because there's a lot of requirements and standards to be met, and they also don't align with what state licensing requirements are. So
Sure.
it's like they want this, licensing is this, and
Yeah.
there's no
So
agreement.
that's
in the middle.
across the country. So that's
Yeah.
why I asked it. As I talked to some centers, particularly in Texas, they're
Okay.
really struggling there. All right. So what have I not asked you that you would love to share with the audience?
I mean, everybody always asks me, why did you do this? So I come from an Indian family. So my family migrated here in the 80s from India. And I guess you don't see a lot of this in childcare. All of my cousins are doctors, lawyers, engineers. I actually went to school to get my doctorate in pharmacy. I was this close to finishing it and having my doctorate, and I decided to change my major because the passion just wasn't there. And when I told my parents I'm taking a job after having my degree at $9 an hour, working as a preschool teacher, they kind of just looked at me with like
Yeah.
multiple heads, and they were like, but this is not the this is not
Yeah.
the road that we paved for you. And I said, but there's something about kids.
Sure.
And I still remember till date when I sat in that director's office. Her name was Jocelyn Baker. She was my first boss ever in this field. And she asked me, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I said, in your chair, but
Mhm.
less than 5 years. And till date, every time I enroll a new family, I still call her and I say, I'm here because of you and you mentored me. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think you just have to follow your passion.
Mm.
I'm gonna be really honest. I haven't taken a salary in I don't know how many years because to me, this is a passion. I don't care about me at the end of the day. I care about keeping my teachers whole and making sure that my children come in every day and have a wonderful experience and they go into public school like ready to hit the ground running. I go to their games, I go to their dance recitals, I go to their birthday parties because it takes a village to raise the children.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that growing up because, again, my parents were immigrants. They had each other to raise me, and that was it. That and Sesame Street. So I want these kids to know the minute they walk into my building, they have a foundation and they have a support system.
Well, thank you so much for being on
Thank
the
you.
Child Care
And we're
Directorship
so happy to
Podcast.
have you
I'm
here.
super excited to be here. You guys are doing an amazing job on the
you.
conference. I can't wait to see
As are
the rest
you.
of
You're
the day.
doing great work.
Whatever's going on the rest of the day. I can't wait to see.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.